Hello and welcome to another of my Train Sim World streams. Hello there, I'm very well, thank you for asking, thanks for joining. I'm going to get cracking straight on here because this is going to be a fairly long one, where I'll be going both directions with all the bells and whistles turned on and doing a wee swappy over at the end and having a look at some of the bits and pieces there. So we'll just get fired straight on in. Very quick cab setup quickly to begin with. Going to have to race through this. Okay, so switch to neutral, open your doors. Go and find the CIFA button, which is down here. Now, that should already be on. Train lights on, brake release, leave that alone, that should be switched on, that doesn't need to be touched at the moment. And lastly, headlights and PZB. I've still got about 40 seconds in hand, really tight this. AFB. Now, you just need to remember to release the direct brake, because when you turn the AFB on, it activates that. So just set AFB and then release that brake. It's good, isn't it, man? It's brilliant. Love this game. Right, so we can lock up now, and because we've already released the direct brake, they should fully release. And off we go. So 40 kilometres an hour under PZB, but I can see a green, so we're just going to release ourselves from monitoring, because there's no chance of an active magnet ahead of us. This is my favourite route. It kind of is at the moment, mate, because it didn't work properly. The signals were all broken and the PZB didn't work properly, and they've more or less fixed it. And with the new train as well, it's yeah, I'm playing a lot of it. It's really good. It's gone from being a bit meh to being really good. You'll see from how many videos I've done on the German routes, I really love the PZB and all that sort of stuff. If I take a wee minute to answer anything or I don't see it straight away, it's because I don't have the chat window on my PlayStation screen. It's difficult enough to see some of the stuff on this without squishing it up even more. So, kilometre and a half to go, so start thinking about the slowdown. What I usually do is about a kilometre out, I put the AFB down to 60 and it'll start it'll start slowing us down on its own. From 120 it should do most of the work. From 160 I would need to use the train brake as well. So you want to be at 60 by the time you're about 250, 300 metres out, and then after that just gentle braking. Close enough. Now, very quickly here, when you put the brakes back to 1B, which is where they should be when you're parked, the brake pressure will sit at about 2 bars. If you close the AFB lever to 0, it will put the train's, it'll put the locomotive brake on. Moving the AFB lever on its own will not release the locomotive brake. You have to release it manually here, and you'll see if you watch this little gauge here. Release it, and that needle drops back down to 2. And you can only release that when the AFB is in position. I tend never to put it back to 0 during the normal course of events. Oh, right, lock the doors, and we can get moving. The brakes have released normally, so if I hadn't released that manual brake, then there would still be about 4 bars of pressure in there, and the thing just wouldn't be moving. And as I say, it's a safety feature of AFB. I think when you return it to 0, it just pops the brake on. So it's about 8:30 AM, so there will be a fair bit of traffic about, I would think, at this time of the morning. But the line should be busier heading into the city than heading out at this time, I would imagine. You might see a bit more traffic heading northbound at this time. This is the more sedate part of the line. It's only 120 until you're sort of a bit south of Wigan, I think. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot to turn on. Oh right, we're the S2, we're not an S8. I got the number wrong, it's an S8 heading north. It's a new locomotive, a new train. Let me just so I'm just making sure I can see the signals. So it's the BR182. It's very nice. I like it a lot. And the Doppelstock is from, it's the same as the stuff on the Rursig Nord, and it's been put on to rapid transit. So now this is how the route was about 10 years ago when the Talents were still coming into service. I'll let you see it again on the outside when I get to the next station, mate. Just because I've got the PZB and all that guff turned on, I'm wary about being outside where I can't see ahead of me for too long. I'm expecting to stop within the next couple of minutes. Have a wee explore. So much better view all around from this cab. It's amazing how much stuff there is. I said this in the last video I did about this route. But it's amazing how much stuff there is at the side of the track you just could not see from the cabin of the Talent to. If you're like me and spend most of your time looking out the front windows, it is almost like having a new route altogether, man. It's crazy how much stuff there was along the sides that I didn't know about. Not much further to go now. So unless there's a signal active on the way into Ragoon, it'll just be using the AFB to slow down from a kilometre or so, and then coast it in under fairly light braking. So the signal itself is a pretty good place to use as a sort of a braking point kind of thing. So we'll just reduce the AFB. It's pretty powerful. I was going to move that handle so I can see the passenger door selector switch. So there we go, we're nearly down to 65 and we're still over 250 out, so we're comfortable for braking. Okay. Let's have a wee look-see at her then. So, yeah, there she is. Ain't she a beaut? She's a noisy beastie, but she's a beaut. She's a sort of weird mix of really sort of cutting-edge, futuristic-looking outside and god-awful late 1980s plasticky inside. But it's nice, it's fun. It's fast, it's responsive, it's goes like the 143s, the 143 or the 146 from main spec art, except it will go much faster. 232 kilometres an hour you can make it do, which I'm not going to be doing because I've got PZB on. Yep, lovely looking thing. Everything seems to work more or less as it should. And let's nice, so we're running about 30 seconds early at the moment, which is good. So again, I'll do that thing with the brakes again. So there the gauge drops to 2 bars or so when I'm at 1B, and if I close the AFB off, that's going to put the locomotive brake on, which you'll need to remember to turn off with this lever here. I'm not going to do it actually because it's faffing about. Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It is really annoying that there's so many issues with especially NEC I mean, it's drivable if you know where to turn the things off, and if you have a keyboard as well, it's doable. I do drive NEC a fair bit. Oh, here's the idiot. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you hit them. What was I going to say there? Yeah, NEC, I drive it quite a lot off stream on my own account. I don't do it on stream because that big gap in the middle's horrible, and it's just, yeah, I don't think it makes for a very good stream. But it's fun to drive, but I can only do it because I have a keyboard, which means I can very quickly switch access off at that bit in the tunnels where it goes all funny. And there's another bit as well where it occasionally throws a wobbly at you. Sorry, just responding to the speed reduction change there, guarded by PZB, of course. Yes, I agree entirely, though. It really needs to be rebuilt for the ground up. They've done it with rapid transit. That's basically what they've done here. And I love it. I have found one problem with it so far that involves a rogue PZB magnet just outside Breakin. But as long as you remember when you're driving a Talent 2, it doesn't affect anything else, only seems to affect the Talent 2s. As long as you remember it, you can kind of work around it. I've raised a ticket and stuff about it, they know about it. Very similar bug on Ruhr-Sig when it launched, I remember. Just outside Werdal, I think there was a rogue magnet, and they fixed that very quickly, so fingers crossed. Oh no, what am I doing? I'm braking way too early there. Lordy. Right, free camera. Right, so tunnel issue, but on right, yeah, it does happen out on the main line. Oh god, it's been months since I've driven it. It's as you cross a bridge where there's a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. I remember that because that's my sort of my, oh yeah, that one's coming up where it goes through a sequence of speed limits. It's 60 mile an hour as you go across a bridge, and it only tends to happen going in one direction, and it's almost like there's a break in the catenary overhead, and that sets off the safety system, because I've noticed that you often have to reset the throttle as well when it happens there. And the first time I go through it, if I've not done it for a wee while, I always get caught by it. It's right near the end as well. It's like between the first and second station at one end of the route. I think it's at the west end. Okay. What I'll do as well at the next station is I'll make sure to close the AFB lever just to demonstrate what I meant about the direct brake, because I've seen on a couple of social media pages, Facebook groups and stuff, a couple of folk have been stumped by that one, myself included, till I worked out what was going on. If you go to, I don't have the link handy, if you remind me later on I'll post it in the chat. There is a link, if you go to the Train Sim World page on Steam, You can download the PC manual from there, and the keyboard commands for PC work for console. The caveat is that not all keyboards work, not all the commands work. For instance, I cannot use the brakes on my keyboard, but I can do the important stuff like the safety systems and things. Control Enter and Shift Enter, incidentally, will switch off access in ATC. Likewise, CFA and PZB on the German trains. That's Control Enter or Shift Enter. But if you, as I say, if you go on the Steam page, I can look it up later on when I'm done, get to the end of the route. Yeah, Steam page manual, all in there. I mean, I'm using a keyboard that I bought for a £5 out of PC World. It's the cheapest, crappiest USB one I could find. Although, to be honest, I don't actually use it very much anymore. Really, I use it to do the two-tone horns on the British trains, and that's about it. Right, I didn't actually think to check how I was doing for time there, never mind. So, that thing I was saying with AFB, so we'll put the brake back to 2 and the brake pressure drops. If I now move that lever to 0, the pressure goes back up to 4, about 4 or 5. It will not let me release it as long as AFB is at 0 and switched on. If I turn AFB off now, I can release that brake, or if I put a speed setting in, I can release that brake. So there we go, I release the brake and the brake pressure falls back down to about 2. So if you're using AFB and you find you cannot get away from a station, just try releasing that handle, and that's probably the cause of the issue. It's caught me out a hell of a few times before I figured that out as well. Right, oh Christ, what am I not doing here? Right. Lonunternemer Albrecht, hello, hi there, hello, welcome, thank you for joining. I might just stick with Albrecht if that's okay. Just embarrass myself otherwise. So just playing about with the new BR182. I make the mistake so you don't have to, that kind of thing. And I make a lot of mistakes, believe you me, especially when I start yakking to people and I'm paying no attention to what I'm actually doing. Okay, so all clear. Yep, the signals are, it's about a kilometre to go. It's as good a place as any to get ready to start your braking or your deceleration. So kilometre to go. Just reduce the AFB. Not sure what side the platform is going to be on. And 60k by 250 roughly is where you want to be, and just ease the brakes in and adjust as required. And we just aim for about the end of the platform. Okay, overshot slightly, but not to worry. Okay. What was I going to do there? I can't remember. There was something I was going to actually do here. Nah, it's gone. Can't have been that important. Right, so it's quite quick stopping times here. Not sitting still for very long at all. I'll just return the brakes to 1B. And that way you can check just by glancing at the brake pressure if it's if your directs come on, but it shouldn't because we've not moved the AFB handle at all. In fact, I'll just leave it where it is for now. Okay. Oh, lock the doors. Sitting staring into space there. Duh. Okay. Okay, it was a wee bit sloppy there, but never mind. So just watching the speed for the PZB, but the speed limit that we're changing to is not until the next main signal, so you don't need to slow down to the 60 straight away. And there again, the yellow number 6 telling us to slow down by the time we get to the next main, which is this one down here with the red and white pole attached to it. And it needs to be acknowledged as well because it's telling you about another temporary speed limit up ahead. And that just slows you down nicely for a nice steady roll into Bitterfeld. Nah, close enough. Cool. Right, let's put the brakes back there. Not sure how much further it is till we get into the city. I think we've still got a while to go yet. Oh yeah, we've got a distance to go. Oh, right, time to lock the doors and go. I'm going to be running behind time at this rate. Okay, brakes out, power in, and away we go. Oh, want to make sure we don't go too fast because we're under restricted monitoring in the PZB. So 40 kilometres an hour until that clears, or we're certain that we can release ourselves. So it should, I think, be able to release it manually now. That's fine. And off we go. On to the nice high-speed section next. Oh, what happened there? Right, bloody SIFA came on, but it didn't actually sound the audio alarm. I just spotted the yellow light on in the HUD there, and it should have been saying Zifa, Zifa, Zifa to tell me. It didn't. Fortunately, Zifa will give you control back as soon as you acknowledge it. But that's quite annoying. I'm going to have to watch for this light coming on now. And then I think when I get to Petersrode, I might just go and switch it off if it's going to be a problem. That's just one more thing I have to really, really concentrate for coming on. So I'm watching for this little yellow light here. That's annoying, like really annoying. That didn't work. Oh, that's just a one-off. It's not happened to me at all so far yet. So this is going to be a slightly higher speed approach, starting from 160k. So what I'll do is I'll still reduce the AFB from about a kilometre out, but I'll be adding braking, train braking to the mix as well. You don't actually need to hammer it that hard. So gain target speed, there we go, it spoke to me this time, but I'm still not taking any chances with it. Target is about 60-65 by the time you're 250 metres out. That's perfectly easy to do without absolutely wrecking the brakes. In fact, too much brake in there really. There we go. I'm still going to go down here and just kill that. Not really I would argue it's not really a safety critical thing for the purposes of the game anyway. I mean, it's an alarm that goes every 30 seconds and that's it. Doesn't tell you anything about not really a technical challenge to it, it's just a make sure you're still awake thing, so can live without it. So we'll just get ready to make a quick getaway. Because I think I'm running about half a minute behind. Okay, let's get going. Excuse me. So no PZB, so we can just carry on up to I usually have it set 40 or 60 to begin with. 40 is sensible actually, because if for any reason you start under restricted monitoring, you'll hopefully notice it. You won't just go blasting straight through that speed. I'm paranoid about not being able to see upcoming signals. They're a pain in the ass if you don't see them and PZB goes off. So again, fairly straightforward. I'm not sure if there's going to be... Sometimes you get signals slowing you down before you reach a station on the high speed stretch. Sometimes you don't. If not, Kilometer's plenty of room to stop. Maybe not quite enough initial braking there. You can just you can adjust the braking as you need it. You get used to how quickly it'll kick in or not. Fairly easy to adapt. Once you know the sort of the rules of thumb to go by. I need enough. Bus sim, I've not really seen very much about it. I'm aware it's coming. If it's good, I'll play it. I'll wait and see what we're getting first. I was the same with train sim. I was, look forward to it, but we'll wait and see. I was not disappointed too much with this. But yeah, I'm a sucker for any kind of sim game. I used to do a lot of flight simming as well. I played Truck Simulator, one of the early versions, a lot, back when I still had a gaming PC. So yeah, it's probably more than likely I will at some point getting to just, I'm always wary with this is the very first time it's been done on this platform type effort. They can be spectacularly hit and miss sometimes. But aye, could be good. Well, certainly, it's one I'll keep my eye on. That's for sure. Still running about 25-30 seconds behind time here, which is really nothing. I mean, that is basically on time. Okay, so no restrictions or anything like that. We can just get ourselves straight up to line speed along here. Right, is that a flashing signal, or it's sometimes a bit difficult to tell if it's steady or flashing. If it's flashing, you're going to be slowing down for it. And 3 kilometres will pass a lot quicker than you think at these speeds. Also don't remember if there's signals or anything on the way in. Not that much to see out here, but as you get closer to the city, there's towns and past towns and things in the distance, but not that it's an altogether unpleasant scenery. It's all right. So again, just roll it in gently from about 250 metres out. Slight uphill gradient as well here, which will help us. And I think our stopping point is just beyond that shed maybe. Right, just pull it up to the... Doesn't matter if you go a wee bit long or a wee bit short. Long is better than short, if you'll excuse the expression. If you stop short, there's a chance that the back of the train will be hanging off the platform. If you go a bit long, then as long as you're actually still on the platform, all is good. And if you're driving the 182, you can be a bit further ahead anyway, because the first passenger doors are about 30 metres back from where you're sitting. Yeah, I've seen that new truck sim as well. I've not seen it. I don't think anybody's seen very much of it. I've heard of it. Again, it's another one that, yeah, I'll keep an eye on it, but the developer I don't really know that much about. Could be good, it could be meh. So again, I'll keep watching it, but I'm not exactly peeing my pants with excitement for it yet. Okay, so we're heading to the city proper now. So after Rakvitz, it's Rakvitz, then I think it's Messe, then Nord, and then it's just stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start till we get to the end. And then at the end of the route, which is, we're maybe still a good 20 minutes away, there will be a bit of a stop. There'll be about 10 minutes between pulling in and heading out the other way, which I will use to go and have a comfort break and refill my coffee cup that's full of tepid coffee, because I always forget that I've got one sitting there. So all clear and nothing else to see. I think it's kind of cool how the wind turbines go if you put a little bit of a breeze into the weather settings. It's a nice little touch, that. So I don't know what that white building on the left actually is, but it's a fairly decent reference point to use for reducing the AFB. I was a bit late on the brakes there, but you can recover it from really late with this thing. It's probably not the most comfortable experience for everyone doing the back, but if you're pushed for time, you need to make a quick 10 or 20 seconds up. There's how you do it. So in fact that's going to give us about a minute and a half. At the station, let's pop out for a wee second. So destination thingy-ma-doodads all work. And it's the same dosto as you've got on rear sig. And as I mentioned in my last video as well, literally the only difference between the rear sig and the main Spessart dostos are about a dozen seats up in the lead end. Oh, I'm rushing to get back for the passengers loading and forgetting that I've got half a minute in my pocket. What a dope. Right, well, not much point in going anywhere. I'll just put the brakes back to 1B. If you've got, a few seconds in hand, there's no harm starting the door closing process a few seconds early, because it takes about 5 seconds to cycle through anyway. So just confirm that there's no PZB restriction kicks in, because it won't kick in until you're doing about 5k. Shouldn't be, but always wise to just keep an eye out for it. Because it's the time you don't check is the time it'll come on for reasons that you don't really understand, like it does with me. But at least we've made up the wee bit of time that I'd been chasing for most of the way down. I think it's actually about a 3-minute window it gives you for being on time. There's so much stuff there that you can't see from the wee letterbox window on the Talent too. I know there's currently a lot of debate about the value of this for 12 quid. It's a lot to pay for a vehicle when you consider what you pay for vehicles on other games. Maybe not comparable games, but you know, can you imagine Just Cause charging you 12 quid for a tank or a helicopter? Probably not. But then will a vehicle from Just Cause give me as many hours as this will? Yeah, definitely not. So, yeah, I'll get a lot of time out of it. I've got my money's worth, I think, already out of it, the length of time I've spent on it. But I understand why a lot of people might not, especially if you're not really interested in the more technical stuff. And that's fair enough if you're not. Lots of people like the trains without all the techie gubbins. Totally understand that, totally get it, and if that's what you're after, you might not feel that you've got tons of value for your money out of this. I don't know. I mean, it's a very individual thing whether you consider you got value from something or not anyway, innit? So it's one of those ones where we can have completely opposite opinions and both be right. Okay. That was basically bang on time, so I'm just going to reduce that to 40. There shouldn't be any restrictions on the way out, but it's not a dumb idea to just cover yourself. Such a nice looking machine on the outside. It's not terrible on the inside, it's just that sort of horrible government green that every public building in the Western world was painted on the inside during the 1980s. Ugh. Okay, lucky, and off we go. Now, on the way into Leipzig Nord, I'm not going to be doing necessarily the speed that the HUD says I should be doing, because the signals, I think, tell me something different around Nord. So it's line speed at the moment, because there's nothing to the contrary on that signal. However, I think there will be a flashing one up ahead advising me of a reduction to 90, if I remember rightly. So watch for the flashing green up ahead. There's the flashing green on the gantry up above, so I'm just going to reduce now. And it doesn't need a PZB acknowledgement. It's an idea to press it if you're not sure, because there is, it's not always that consistent when you should and shouldn't acknowledge it. So that speed limit's actually enforced from the next main signal, but you can do it there and you'll still be on time to Nord. And you'll see the next main signal we pass will have the white number 9 above it, which is telling you be at that speed now. And that overrides any signage until you pass the next main signal. as far as I'm aware. That's what I've been led to believe anyway. Right, this is actually the station I struggle most to make a smooth entry into, because it's got a really, really funny entry speed compared to any other one that I've come across. Okay, so... and might have noticed on the signals coming in the yellow number 10s underneath, which are enforcing a 100 kph speed limit from the next main, which is that one there. And it's also telling you that the next main, the speed reduces again to 80. Sometimes the speed restriction changes don't seem to make much sense. Don't worry about it if they don't. They're not targets. They're maximum permitted speeds. Usually the signalling conditions will have you going slower. But you do have to acknowledge this one on the way out as well. And because you're going to be running under PZB after that, although the line speed is 100, it's effectively 80. It doesn't seem to make much sense on the surface of it, but it's the way it's designed to work that way. They do this all quite deliberately, and it works out. It keeps the trains spaced apart nicely, and you can still make it on time, running to the signal speed limits, more or less, usually. Occasionally you don't, but that's why trains are very often a couple of minutes late in real life. Right, so I've actually got a bit longer at this station as well than I thought I had. Few more seconds. Okay, we'll just put the brakes back to 1B. Should really do that when I stop the train, to be honest. 3 seconds to go. Let's just get the doors locked up now. So doors locked, brakes off, reset the selector, and off we go. So we're not moving off under any restriction, but we're going straight into PZB monitoring here. But it's normal 1000 Hz monitoring, so we can still go up to 80 kilometres an hour without incurring a penalty. My controller doesn't actually rumble, mate, no. Doesn't really need to. I don't think it loses anything from not, to be honest with you. So another flash in green with a yellow advisory below it is basically, it's just keeping the speeds down for traffic going into the tunnels. It needs to be acknowledged again. I think it's a clear 80 all the way into the tunnel, as far as I remember. And AFB can actually cope with this little downhill section quite well. There's no need to worry about that. So just acknowledge that bad boy as you go past. And we won't need the throttle anymore because we're going downhill all the way. And just because it's a downhill, we'll just be a little bit earlier and a little bit sharper on the brakes, because it's quite a steep hill that we run down into here. So yeah, within 10-15 meters is fine. That still leaves plenty of clearance down at the back end. Let's see if we can. So yeah, tons of room, tons and tons of room. It's kind of weird seeing one of these down in these tunnels though. Still, I'm not used to it yet. Having done quite a few runs now. It just it still looks out of place. Very cool, but out of place. Right, so these won't be particularly long stops because it's really difficult to keep your time in these tunnels the best of time. Best way to do it is basically just to throw it off the speed limiter and back. Assuming the signals stay green for me, I'm not going to move AFB off the 80 position for the entire way through it. So we'll just put the brakes back to 1B, get ready to lock up. Oh, we've got a wee bit of time in hand. Didn't actually think I'd still be running on time at this point. Right, where's my cursor gone? Lock, 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 come on. And off we go. Oh, too short, too short. You don't want to stop that short. Oh, bugger. I was almost dead on time there as well. Oh, close open. Dope. So that's running quite close behind another one. There is actually, there are a few services like that, and those are pretty good fun if you're into the old bit PZB and stuff, because you'll get loads and loads of yellow signals when you're following another train quite closely. It can be quite challenging to keep time. Now, unfortunately, the AI ones don't sing when they drive away. It's really disappointing. It just moves off. I was gutted. Right, better get back into my own cab. near enough. So the tunnel goes up and down as you go through it as well, so each station is just a slightly different approach. Let's see if we get the, oh yeah, we get the camera on the wall sometimes. Let's try another one. Right, so that's the front camera. Oh yeah, because I left the front camera down the back actually, didn't I? Around here. Oh, I think I've already... Oh! Have I got... Oh, I don't really have time to jump out and grab that. Not that I really bother that much about collectibles, if I'm being totally honest. They're no the be-all and end-all for me. Never been a trophy hunter or anything like that either. Fair play if that's your cup of tea. Oh, didn't close the throttle. There we go. So again, just up to the speed limit, near enough, and then this stretch is just about long enough for us to reach it, but AFB kind of slows the acceleration towards the top of the curve there, so you don't quite hit it. And it's uphill as well into here, so here we go. Don't need those on as bright. And so we're getting towards the end of the route. Yeah, the camera controls could be a lot easier, to be honest with you. I mean, if you've got a USB keyboard plugged in, you can just jump between them quite easily. But not everybody's got one of those, you know. And even if you do, not every control works quite the way it's intended to. See, I'm using a keyboard to kind of pan around there, and I did used to use it a lot, but be honest with you, I've kind of gotten used to using the pad for most things. Right, it's 15 seconds to go. Again, we can start the door closing a few seconds early. And off we go. And I didn't close the throttle properly when I stopped, so precious seconds lost there, but again, not a disaster. Just climb a very short re-ramp there, and then more or less straight into Breakin for the next stop. And I'm only pressing that because I have to be honest, I was looking elsewhere and I didn't see what the signal mast had told me to do, so that was just a wee safety press. Right, so let's just have a wee look on the map here. So we're pretty close to the end. I think there's 2-3 stops left, and then it'll be there's about 10 minutes between arriving and departing. I'll use that time to go and have a quick comfort break and stuff, 'cause it's an awfully long time to be sitting still. I'll do the cab change first though, before I do anything else. Oh, okay, Neko-san TV. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll get that link for the Steam page, post it into the comments once the thing's uploaded. You enjoy the rest of your weekend, bud. I'll catch you another time. Doors are locked, and I feel I've forgotten to do something. I suspect I'll find out very shortly. No, we're all good. And oncoming traffic. Not really seen it on this service, and I think it's just the time of day. Most of the traffic's actually going the same way we are, although we did see a couple in the tunnels and stuff as well, but there's definitely more traffic on the line as well, with the addition of the 182. Don't know whether that's the change to the timetables in general, or whether you need the 182 to see all the extra services, whether they run just with talent twos in their place anyway. It definitely feels like a busier line for me. Okay, so just letting AFB do most of the heavy lifting just now. It'll cope even with a slight downhill. You might need to just give it a little bit of help with the brakes. Doesn't really matter what you do with the power setting when you're decelerating. AFB will do its thing anyway. Or maybe just encourage it along a little bit with a bit of brake, which we would have been doing around that point anyway. Okay. Doing no too bad. Lots of little details and things there. All this stuff, if you zoom in on this stuff when you're moving along, it all sways around and moves about as you go. All the big hydraulic doohickeys there, you can see them kind of rocking around and moving. It's all right. Don't know how well it would show up on the stream though, to be honest with you, because you kind of, the blurries are always there as well, and I think on 720p output or 70 or whatever it is that they let you stream at, I don't think it's quite as evident, some of the small detailing. Right, let's get the doors closed now. Didn't close the throttle again. Always have to remember to actually switch the throttle off, not just minimise it. And I always forget to do that. So probably not going to get up to the full 120. Well, we might actually. 1.7k, maybe. So the signal ahead's steady, but I'm still going to use it as a reference point to slow down, because it's exactly 1k out. And again, just let AFB do the initial work. You can see there, didn't have to touch the brake and it coped admirably. Possibly even I could have even left that a little later if I'd wanted to, I think. So let's turn the throttle off now, because I shouldn't really need it after this. Until we're ready to depart again, so let's just try and roll a wee bit further up so we're not hanging off the back of the platform. We're doing okay for time. Help if I was opening the doors on the correct side though. So we came in under no restrictions, we'll be leaving under no restrictions, theoretically. I wonder how far away the camera will go. Oh, fairly. Yeah, it all starts to look a bit crap the further you get away from the railway. Not crap, but it's it's functional. This game goes from looking absolutely amazing to looking like a PlayStation 2 game in the blink of an eye sometimes. In fact, often you can see examples of both in the same screen. Right, so the PZB lights don't come on. There's no point going too fast. There we go. Really stoppy starty again down here. It's this is the section where I always lose a wee bit of time. There's the stoppy starty thing at the end here. Let's just check. So is there one there and then one more? Aye. We end up stopped somewhere in here. I think we actually have to stop at another one before that. And then I need to try and remember how to do the turnaround. I like how they just sort of stand there and stare blankly at the side. Maybe they're like secretly people-cat hybrids and they can see something in ultraviolet like what the cats do. Right, maybe it's just not been a priority to make the AI very convincing, which is fair enough for the amount of time you actually spend looking at them. Though I still reckon if they're going to make them walk out onto level crossings, they should at least give us points for hitting them. Oops. Unintentional acknowledgement there. And we're going to get a yellow signal up ahead, so I'm not going to go too quickly. So I'm already miles below any PZB restriction I might happen to come across at this stage, and we'll just reduce further because the next one could be a red. So we'll make sure we're completely PZB compliant. It can actually be 65k when you hit the next magnet, and still be okay. But seeing as we're stopping anyway. Doors. And this is where you sometimes lose a minute or two by default anyway, simply because we'll be leaving under 1000 Hz restricted monitoring, and we might come across 500 Hz monitoring a bit further down, so we'll be doing between 20 and 40 kilometres an hour for most of the rest of the trip. But again, that's PZB enforced. That's shit happens. That's why you've got a window of about 3 minutes to get to the station, and it'll still give you on time. I think it's about 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes that you get. So make sure AFB set to 40 at this point if you've got the PZB restricted mode on. You can run to a maximum of 45, but it tends to pop the PZB as soon as you touch it. So 40 is generally the sensible speed. You want just that little cushion in hand. And if the 500 Hz magnet, that red light there, or that thing there turns red, comes on, I need to get shot of a bit more speed and be down to 25, pretty sharpish, so it's ready to respond. Otherwise, hold 40. There's the magnet there in front of me, so if that doesn't come on, yeah, for some reason you have to acknowledge that magnet back there. I haven't figured that out yet. I wonder if there's a missing signpost there, or a missing mast. And I think this one needs an acknowledgement as well. Right, so we're still in restricted mode. And there could well, because those signals are telling us expect stop, we have to be prepared for the 500 hertz. And there's the 500 hertz there. It's actually 25k is the limit for the 500 hertz in restricted mode. But again, you're better sticking down to 20. Just give yourself that little bit in pocket, because if it touches 25, it goes off. So we'll be about a minute late getting in, and there's not much you can do. It's gone back up to 1000 hertz monitoring, so we should be able to go back up to 40k, or well 30 actually, because we're on a 30k stretch of track. But be prepared for the 25 to kick back in again, should that magnet be active. And in fact, just start your braking. It'll be a wee bit fiddly the first few times you do this until you get used to just working all those different controls together. Right, so minute late, almost exactly. I think that's not disastrous. So we'll just return the reverser to neutral for now. Lock the doors, and that is the end of the service. So, so it's now 12.5 minutes till the next one goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shut this cab down. So to do that, with the reverser in neutral, return both the train brakes back to 1B. This is really important. Make sure that you've not closed the AFB, and if you have, you need to do something a wee bit different here. So I want the under desk, switch AFB off, back to the driver's desk, and now when I close the AFB handle, it does not put the locomotive brake on. If AFB is still turned on when you do that, you will activate the locomotive brake, and when you do the next bit, which is to put the master switch to off and release the train brake fully, you've now set this cab up to be the rear end. That brake pressure thing should be just under 2. If you've done the AFB the wrong way around, it'll be at about 4. And again, like I did earlier on, you would just hold and release that lever like that, and it'll release the loco brake. So, last things I need to do. Now, it usually takes me a couple of goes to get the lights right on this. For some reason, they don't always go straight to the one I want. Turn the PZB off. And just do a last visual check. Everything is off and at 0 that should be. Master switch off. We'll put the door lock and selector back to neutral. We want the these switches here, leave them basically as they are. We still want the marker lights on because the marker lights have now become the red ones. Don't worry about the PZB alert still flashing away on the desk there. We have deactivated the system. That'll just keep flashing away, but it will have no impact on the use of it at the other end. I am just going to make sure I've turned it off entirely though. Yeah, it's off. And if you had it turned on, you'll want to also remember to come and switch CIFA off, which I turned off halfway through the run after an issue with my sound, where I wasn't hearing it every time. I could also just be going deaf. Right, so those lights are still white. What I've found tends to work here is setting that to emergency lights, and then you'll see that the reds have come on, but those aren't the same thing as the tail markers actually. Those are the... You can use them, but they're not actually the correct setting. I don't know whether this is just another wee... There's probably stuff you're supposed to do in a specific order, which is often the case with machines like this, and if you don't do it exactly as the checklist tells you to, it won't work properly. So there we go, we've got the things in the right place, we've got the right light showing. Lock that up and forget about it now. We'll head back down to the cab end at the other end. Still got 8 minutes to go, so I'm just going to jump in this cab, set it up, and then I'm going for a wee short break before doing the return leg. I can just find the click spot for the door. There we go. Put the blinds down. And set the signal lights to the front. CIFA if you want it. I'm not really going to bother with it for this run. PZB, yes. So sit in the driver's seat. Reverser to neutral, and then we'll do our brake test. So make sure you've got the train brake selected and just all the way to full service. And all the way back to release, and then return it to 1B. Now we've got loads of time to go yet. Normally you would be, you know, if you're pushed for time, you're going to be doing your doors and all that crap around now. But we've got a few minutes in hand, so just turn the brake key on, and just check that the brake's fully released. The train's not going anywhere if you do it. Just check that they fully release, and then return them to 1B. If for any reason they don't fully release, that little button there should solve the problem. It should clear them. It's probably just you've held the brake in the release position for too long on the other end, and it's a little bit of excess pressure that you flush out the system. If you press that and the brakes come back on, then I can almost guarantee you that you have left either the AFB turned on or you've left the direct brake active. Maybe by closing that AFB lever at the wrong time. Zoom functionality if a keyboard's attached. No, I'm afraid there is no. There's no zoom. I'm afraid that's the one thing that us PS4 peasants are really missing, because that would be such a useful thing to have sometimes out on the line. It's a feature that I remember from older train sims that I've played on PC in years gone by, and it's sorely missed because it's such a useful thing. But who knows? They have said they're working on and looking at a lot of things. They do deliver on some of it, so who kens? I mean, there are only about 40 of them, so priorities, I guess. Nice if we get it in the future, though. I certainly wouldn't complain. Right, I'm going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes for the return leg. Okay, I'm back, and right, so I've got about a minute to go. Let me just untangle some cables here. Must have twisted round when I stood up. And I'm just going to have a very quick look if I've got time before we need to do this. I might not, because my laptop's shite and slow. I'll try and get to this manual link for the keyboard buttons. No, I'm going to have to do it later, I think. Right. So let's just get the doors open now in advance. No reason why we can't. And let's set the destination panel. I think the automatic thing will set this to Dessau, because that's the end of the actual the actual line that exists in the game. But the service itself on the timetables goes as far as Magdeburg, so we'll make it an S8 to Magdeburg, even if we're only driving it so far. So just wait till 10:01:30. At this point we can make sure the reverser's forward. Do all the stuff I probably should have done 2 or 3 minutes ago. They're on normal. They should all be on anyway, because we had them on the way up. Don't know why the throttle lever was on. Ah, so if I wait till 10:01:30, right, that's fine. Right, there is a link to the manual for the base game, which has stuff like the camera controls and things in it. Also on their Steam page, which I don't have time to go back to now because I need to close up this train and move. There's a separate manual for each of the routes. It might be an idea to grab the individual ones because there are different controls for different trains, i.e. the same button does different things. And we can just get underway, and we'll be under restricted monitoring on the way out, but there's no magnet active that I can see, so I'm just going to release ourselves, but it is a 30k limit anyway on the way out. So we'll not be going particularly fast. So no problem with the brakes releasing there. If I had a problem, as I said before, it would have just been quick push of that button there, should clear it down next to the key. If not, you've left something set incorrectly at the back. Oops, keep pressing that button without meaning to. But it can feel quite strange as well when you go from the one end of this train to the other, just because it's there's a bit of input lag from this end, because the train's still being driven by the locomotive. We're just doing it remotely from the other end, so there's a little bit of input lag, but it's quite intentional. That's how this thing actually does work. It'll probably be a couple of stations before I can make a properly decent, smooth stop. Yeah, like that out a little further. Okay, and I've already set what side I want the doors to open, so more or less on time. Well, there's another one of those things I could have gnashed out and got. Have I still got time to do it? Probably not, but I'm going to anyway. There we go. Don't usually bother too much about those collectibles, but I see as I'm sat right next to it, might as well, eh? So wait for the interlocks first, or the brakes, again, will not release properly. And you know the interlock's done when that little green letter T on the dashboard stops flashing. So again, it can feel a bit laggy when it gets underway and you're thinking, shit, is the brake properly off, what have you? Again, it's the time it takes the locomotive to react to what you're telling it to do. And it's perfectly okay, perfectly normal. You find at higher speeds it's much punchier. And it'll also take a wee moment to respond when you take the power out. So it's a slightly different braking curve than what you have with the 182. Again, that's just down to the control lag with it being 100 or so meters behind us. Still got the left-hand doors, that's fine. So that'll do. Another quick look outside, see if there's anything immediately nearby I can grab. Nah. I don't think every station has a collectible, or if they do, they're not always like up on the platform. Oh, you can't go down those stairs anyway. Yeah, the old routes, man, really restrictive compared to the more up-to-date ones in terms of where you can go. Hell, you can go for a walk down the wee country lane next to the railway in main Spessart. Takes you to the side and where the bank and locomotive will be waiting. You can stroll there from whatever the name of the station is just behind it. Right, it's a very, very quiet cab up at this end as well. Did I actually turn the train line power on? I think I did. Yeah, I did it up at the other end. It's a really, really quiet cab this sometimes. Just because it's not the engine room. There's some electrical gear nearby that has a cooling motor that you sometimes hear, but mostly what you hear is just the noise generated by a couple of 100 tons of metal rolling along 2 strips of metal. slipping a wee bit for time again. I always do through this stoppy starty stuff. Oh, too early. Oh. I mean, I say I'm slipping, I'm still within the minute, so I don't like losing time like that so early on. Oh. Oh, what did I do that for? Oh, thumbs. Well, it was further away than it looked. There we go. Right, only 19 more to go. I don't think there's even actually any point in collecting them. I don't think anything happens if you get them all. There's maybe a trophy or something for it. But, okay, so I should have done that with the brakes when we stopped, but never mind. Let's make sure the throttle's off. And away we go. I've gotten into the habit of checking these brake gauges fairly often now, just because of the weird problems I was having that I think almost entirely turned out to be caused by AFB and automatic brakes. Or automatic application thereof. Man, I don't have to talk some shite sometimes, eh? Right. So Conowitz is fairly easy stop. It's not a particularly long platform, and you're quite often signalled going in anyway, like just now. So we're going to be reducing all the way down to 60, as you do for a yellow. At the very least anyway. I've seen varying accounts of between 40 and 60 for that, but you do need to be aware that there might be a 500 Hz magnet down the line somewhere, so as long as you're awake for that. But the point is, you're usually going fairly slowly coming into Leipzig Conowitz. So, unrestricted mode, we're already below the 500 Hz limit, which is 45 at its lowest. That's near enough. It's quite a long platform, so that's plenty of room. Just return the brakes back to... The only other time I ever have problems with the brakes is when I've left them on a high setting for more than half a minute or so. They can sometimes... it seems to overcharge the system slightly. Still cool seeing mixed traffic on this route. That's going to take a long time to get old. I like it a lot. Okay, back to the cab, methinks. So we'll be leaving under 500 Hz. Restricted monitoring, and you know it's restricted because it's slashing between 75 and 85 there. It's a bit more difficult to tell just from this display. It's the speed limit strip that you can't read that tells you 25 or 40, it tells you whether you're in restricted or not. So if all you can really see is the HUD, it's the two numbers are alternating, which means absolute limit of 25. For safety's sake, I won't go over 20, and it should clear as soon as you pass the next active signal that's clear. The next main signal that's clear, rather, which is this one. So we'll just crawl out. So it's now gone into 1000 hertz restricted, which is a limit of 40. But I'm going to manually release it because that was a clear signal and there cannot be an active magnet within the next 550 meters. Which, if that all sounds a bit like Greek, there's a no bad explanation of this at the back of the main Spec Art band manual and the BR182 manual. The 80 kilometers per hour coming up. Speed limit change. There is a sign up here warning you. It is guarded by a PZB magnet, so we'll be just cutting our throttle. Start braking now. Acknowledge that as we go through. And there we go. Just level your speed off at 80. The signal's clear, so we can carry on at 80 for now. Sometimes if you're following another service, you sometimes get two trains leave Leipzig Konowitz. Is it Konowitz we just left? You get them leaving Konowitz really close together, and the one following gets loads of yellow signals, especially up this first sort of third of the line. And you spend the fast half of it trying to catch that back up again, and it's pretty good fun. It all works very well. I'm still just getting used to it. It takes me a really good few stops to just adjust to the slightly different braking on this. Right. This is a weird station. It's on a slope of about 0.5%, but it doesn't matter whether you're going up the hill or down the hill. It always feels to me like I'm braking downhill coming in here. What thing blinking on the screen? Oh, the... do you mean this? The PZB indicator? The PZB button is... Where the hell is it on here again? Oh yeah. PZB is turned on with that switch down there on the fuse board behind you. I would highly recommend arming yourself with a copy of the driver's manual for rear signal or main Spec Art band before you try playing about with it, though. It's it's a challenging thing to learn, I found. So doors closed. Off we go. Oh, I didn't close the throttle properly the last time, so... So there's no PZB restriction. I can go straight up to 80. This tunnel is a nightmare if you catch a yellow on the way in, because PZB will keep you down to half the speed you really want to be going. It's worth about 3.5 minutes time lost going through here under restricted monitoring. So just getting ready to hold this on the way down the hill here, because of course no AFB, so we have to do it ourselves. And just again, just a little bit earlier than I usually would have been on the brakes because of the downhill. Oh, left it a bit late. You just about get away with this. The brakes on the 182 are incredible, so when they do finally bite, you're all right. Right, that probably again wasn't the most comfortable stop for anybody sitting in the back, but got the job done. We'll just pretend that didn't happen, I think. So yeah, I mean, it was green ahead, so we should get a nice fast full speed run up here, or comparatively fast. Hopefully not lose too much on the way through, and then it's on to the quick section north of the city, which is always my favourite. I've not actually done the fast section northbound yet. Not in the Dosto wagon anyway, I've done it in the 182. I don't think I did it going north in the Dosto. In fact, might as well just leave the door selector on the left, because all the stations through here are going to be on our left. So just up to the limit, more or less, as close as you dare. And just remember, this is a slight downhill slope as well, so right, we're more or less holding on here. And meanwhile, I'm going to have a quick look at something else very quickly. How am I doing for time? Right. Fair bit. View the manual. Okay, and I'm just going to post here a link to the manual for this particular locomotive, which also explains how to use PZB, which is the thing that's making that little blue light there work. Almost every video I've ever done on the German routes, I do talk about PZB quite a lot, but I'm not a very good teacher, mate. I just talk as I play, so that manual will probably give you a much better grasp of the basics. You do kind of need to understand what all the signals mean as well as you're going along the line, and all the signposts at the side of the track, which is all covered in the manual there, I think. It's a fantastic system. I love using it. I think it adds so much to the game. Oh, not close, open. I do like this station. This is probably my favourite one. one with the coloured roof. I like the one with the multicoloured ceiling. That's pretty cool. See if there's any missed collectibles down here. Nope, there was one hidden down a flaming tunnel once that I found. Not going away down the tunnel. Right, it's I'm in danger of losing time here if I don't stop messing about. Right, door controls. Boot it. Oh, a bit hot again. Maybe? No, get away with that. Yeah, fine. Okay. So, pardon me, a flashing green signal ahead is proceed with caution. Anybody who knows the rear sig or the main spec art band, that would be a combined green and yellow that you'd be looking at. Flashing green is equivalent. And if you see a yellow number under it, then as always, it probably is going to want an acknowledgement if you have PZB running. Which is fine, because the speed limit we're going to is 80k. We're on an 80k, we're going to an 80k, and PZB's speed limit under those conditions is 85, so we don't lose any time. It's basically, it's just a method of speed control, really, at some points. So they don't all need acknowledged either, but I'm not as familiar with KS signalling as I am with HV, so I'm still just acknowledging everything if I'm not sure. Right, we'll just get locked up now. Get ready to move. Safety interlocks closed, and off we go. So just acknowledge it and straight into unrestricted 1000 Hertz. So we can keep accelerating even though we're under monitoring. The only thing you have to be careful of is not hitting 85, which in the DOS stock is bloody easy to do by accident. Although what PZB will do is it shouldn't actually stop you completely. It'll apply full braking until you're back under the speed limit and you've acknowledged it, but you sort of still have to go through recycling all the controls, so it loses you more time than you would lose by just observing any limits. You can see how responsive it is there. I need to be really careful with the speed. So now that I'm actually clear of all that stuff, I'm going to manually release it. I think by the time I faffed about and found the switch, it had released itself. And we're now in the 100 kph stretch of the line, as indicated by the black triangle with the big white 10 on it. I always misjudge this one as well. Right, so we'll just creep on in here. And stop. Oh, a couple of meters long, but still well within the platform bounds. It's fine. Is not a problem. So, oh, there's another flashing signal in the opposite direction. That's just a distance. That's like just a repeater signal. There's no black and white NE2 plate at the bottom, and it's not got the black and red pinstripe on the centre, so it's not a main. It's got the little white light there telling you it's a distant signal. It's telling you proceed with caution. The one down behind it is also doing the same. That's the main signal. That can be yellow. If that's flashing green, then potentially the next one can be yellow, as you saw a minute ago. But not always. It doesn't necessarily follow. And if that one's yellow, the next one will be either yellow or red. It's a fairly simple system to follow. It seems more complicated than it is once you get used to it. It's actually no more complicated than the UK signalling system. They just present the information in a slightly different manner. And they can condense it up so they can show two signals on one post, essentially. A bit like the old semaphore signals we used to use, where you could have the distant and the main on the same mast. So, leaving under no restrictions. Speed limit sign there doesn't apply to us. The little arrow there tells you it applies for traffic crossing off to the left. So there's nothing there for us to acknowledge as we go through. He says, watch this, PZB will come on now. Haha. So that restriction was 100 kilometres an hour as well as we left the last station. So we are under that restriction until we pass the next main signal, which isn't that far away. And if there's no information on the signal as you pass, that's the distance. I can already see the main from here, and it doesn't look like there's any additional information, so we'll just pick the speed up. You can usually see a sort of yellow dot below it if it's presenting any information, and it would be flashing as well if there was a further restriction. So a wee bit naughty, up to speed just a little bit quicker than we should have, but part of that is just about knowing the line as well and what you're going to run up against. So, kilometre to go. This is slightly different to the 182 because I will not have AFB helping me do the braking. So I'll just simply be doing gentler braking from a bit further out. And I'm going to use the same target roughly as I do for the 182. You want to be at about you want to be down to 65 kilometres per hour by the time you're about 250 metres from stopping, and from there you should be able to do it fairly smoothly. In fact, I was just a little bit too keen on them there, about to roll to a halt, just a little bit short I think. So there you go. 10 seconds after the posted arrival time we're there. So you can keep to time even if you're following the signal speeds and stuff like that. It's difficult when you're getting used to them. I used to be miles and miles behind time whenever I switched on PZB or anything like that. And it's just practice. Mostly it's getting confident at the speeds you can do when the thing comes on. That's where you lose most of it to begin with, because you go way too slowly. I used to be really bad for it as well. But you can have it all turned on and you can drive to the signals and things, which you have to do anyway with PZB. But you can still keep time. I play far too much of this. I really do. But I am still quite capable of going thundering through stations that I didn't notice coming, or finding myself ground to a halt with the brakes slammed on and I wasn't paying attention to something. It's the way it goes. As I said before, I think it really does add a lot to the game using this this stuff. Okay, so no restriction. No reason there should have been a restriction there. We didn't meet any of the criteria, but it's really easy to forget that you arrived in a station with PZB on in one of its modes. Especially if it was an unrestricted mode, and depending on the signalling conditions ahead, that can sometimes trigger a restricted monitoring as you pull away. So it's worth just watching your gauges as you pull out a station in case you've forgotten something, or you're maybe not aware of a certain thing that will trigger it. Getting out onto the nice high-speed sections now. These are the bits I really like. I never even knew there was a yard down there, because you can't even see that properly from the Talent 2's cab. So I'm just being a little bit cautious, and again this is a PZB thing. It has a top speed of 165, and as I said a few minutes ago, bad things will happen if I touch that speed or go over it. Not irrecoverably bad, but bloody annoyingly bad. So few kilometres an hour in hand, and again you can give yourself 4 or 5 kph in hand usually and still be running roughly to time. So because I'm coming in much faster from 160, I'm braking earlier and more vigorously. Great word that, eh? Vigorous. No vigorously enough, because I need to be down just... I'm using that 65 by 250 kind of target, which you'll get used to hitting fairly quickly. Select the doors as I enter the station, brake as we come on platform. Still not allowing for that, there's that lag for the brakes coming on. I'm still not quite getting the feel for it. We're still on time, so it's all good. Oh, still got my headlights on from when I was in the tunnels as well. Which one is it? That one. Not internal, want external. Oh, I've not unlocked the door, cock! shit, shit, shit. How's the door not unlocked? Oh, come on, click. See, this is what happens when you fuck up. You start to, like, panic and you can't even click spots and... Oh, balls. Oh, well. Like I said earlier, I make mistakes many and often times. It's usually because I'm gabbing and no concentrating. Not to worry. I might actually be able to make some of that back, because it's not uncommon to come out those tunnels a bit late if you've been following traffic. So I think we should have been moving off now. So we're not that much, not too late, I don't think. Right, we're going to boot it and go. Right, 4.5k, 10:43 to get. So we've got 2 and a bit minutes to cover 4.5 kilometres. If the signal gods are with us, we might just about catch that. But we've got quite a lot of line to go yet. I should be alright for time by the end. As long as the signals all go our way. Your attention's kind of a little bit more diverted as well in this cab, because you have to monitor your own speed a bit more carefully than when you're running with AFB, because you don't want to trigger that PZB thing. So it's just one more thing you have to be used to scanning, or to make part of your scan. So I'm kind of running a little bit closer to the 160 than I maybe normally would in a manually controlled train, fully manual train. Okay, that's better. Right, aye, so if you're prepared to be a wee bit brave on the brakes, you can make up little bits of lost time fairly quickly. I won't pretend I got a little bit lucky there. Or that I won't pretend I didn't get a little bit lucky, is that right? Yeah. You know what I mean. Oh, we're in the bus shelter. The bus shelter. The train station, aye. Good one. Jorto. With due apologies to any German speakers, I'm absolutely shocking at the pronunciations. Oh, right, lucky doors. All that time I just made up, I've just thrown away again. Nicely done. Right, let's go. Right, don't think there's anything to acknowledge there. So it's just full pelt now. Obviously just keeping an eye out for the signals. If the closer you are to running on time, the more attention you really need to pay as well. If there's anything up ahead of you. The further back you drop, obviously, the further behind you will be anything in it ahead that's keeping to time. And the less of an obstacle they'll become to you. But obviously in turn you begin to hold up traffic behind you, and that can then knock on oncoming traffic, and the further back you get, some routes it is possible to spectacularly bugger up the AI by deliberately dropping 15 minutes or so behind time. You can bring the whole line to a halt. Other routes seem to cope a bit better with it. I just spent the last 200 metres waiting for PZB to go off because I hadn't actually been paying attention to the signal that went past either. I was just aware of seeing the red and white stripe of a main signal going past the very last second. Again, I'm having to manage my speed manually here. I'm not doing a brilliant job of it. So kilometer to go, high speed, brakes! Hold on to your harnesses. Right, so that's how you get down to 65 kilometres per hour by 250 metres. And then just slide it on in. Like a glove. Hey Stephen, how you doing, mate? Yes, I did go back and check it, and it happened to me on the same service, so I did another one going the same way in the same train. Got the same one again, just north of Breakin, so I put a ticket in as well for that this afternoon. Only seems to affect Talent 2s, so yeah, that's a good point there. Anybody else watching this, if you're driving a Talent 2 northbound, there is a rogue 1000 Hz magnet just north of Breakin, which you'll need to acknowledge and slow down for. If you're not sure which one Breakin is, just acknowledge every signal. It's a fairly short, it's one of these little rural stations, really short platform, and the signal's just at the end of the platform as you exit. So if you see a platform at the end of a signal, a platform at the end of a signal at the end of a platform even if it's green, just acknowledge it and get ready to jump on your brakes. There was a similar bug in Rursig Nord when it first came out on the way into Verdal, I believe it was. They fixed that fairly smartly when they found out. I suspect the same will be true here. Other than that, haven't really found anything too terrible. Although apparently they've neglected to tell us, and kind of the reason I did this video partly was they neglected to explain how AFB affects the braking system on the train, especially when you're changing ends. So that's something I've been discovering today, something I've talked about earlier on in the stream. But essentially, if you're using AFB, if you ever return the power lever to 0 kph, your direct brake comes on, and you need to remember to release it manually. I got it at 14:30. Right, I'm actually heading northbound, so we'll be going through Breakin at some point. What time is it? 10:50. I've not had a problem in the 182 or the 767. Oh, Speedy McSpeedy. I don't remember exactly where Breakin is, if it's beyond Bitterfeld or before it. This is going to go badly. I'm getting about halfway through reading that and then having to look back at the track again. When I slow down a wee bit, I'll see what that says. Hey. The novelty of seeing the red ones on the rapid transit, still not worn off. Oh right, speed limit change coming up as well. This is this the one hidden behind the 120? There's two that run into each other. It's not this one. I think as if you're coming from the other direction. This is hidden a wee bit. It's sneaky. You have to be watching for the signposts. Alright, so that didn't actually need acknowledged. See, that's what I mean about a lack of consistency. That should have an active magnet to my mind, and I think sometimes it actually does. So I think you might be right. There's something a wee bit squirrely still going on with the magnet. So I feel I might be putting another ticket in tomorrow about this. Right, so this one's a further reduction down to 60, so that also needs an acknowledgement. I can actually stay around 80 because it's the next main signal that comes into force from, and that'll just take us nicely into Bitterfeld. So although the line speed's 160, we've been restricted to 80 by signalling through this stretch. So signals always take precedence over posted speeds. But again, running to the line speed, we should arrive at Bitterfeld around about 56 anyway. So there's just a repeater reminding us, or a distant signal reminding us that we're going to be slowing down at the next main. Which isn't that far down here, I don't think. The signals themselves are clear, so I've got no concerns about running into a 500 Hz magnet. So that's actually still the repeater. That's not the signal that the speed limit starts from. I'm just slowing it down. Because it's stoppy stop time. In fact, braking a little bit sharpish there. So due on platform at 10:56, and we're going to be there within a few seconds of it. That's close enough. It's a long platform, so I don't need to worry about not being clear at the end. Oh, better choose the door side first away. TikTok, Scott. Let's get going. There we go. Yeah, I don't really use the line speed thing anyway very much. The main reason I've got this thing up here is because I know that if I'm going over 100 and the next one is less than 100, then I'm going to have to acknowledge PZB a kilometre before. Now, the real drivers know where they are based on the little distance markers at the side of the track. I think we've talked about this before. I'm not prepared to learn that. But that's really the only thing I use this for. Mostly I'm driving, but I am always paying attention to what the signal heads themselves tell me. I rarely get into trouble doing that. Right, let's lock up and let's go. Oh, Greppin's next. Mwah. Let's see what happens here. To be honest, man, the speeds you've just put in the chat there, I think those are actually the speeds that the driver's handbook tells them they should be doing anyway, under those conditions. I tend to be a little bit more liberal with them simply because it's nobody's going to get hurt if I run into anything. But certainly the driver's manual for rear sig and main Spessart does tell you 65 for a proceed with caution and 45 for a full-on expect stop. And that's for quick mode O-trains. You adjust accordingly, obviously, if you're running in mode M or mode U. So yeah, you've got the right idea though with those speeds. Other streams that I've done, I have tended to run to those speeds. I've maybe been pushing it a little bit on the recent runs on this route, just because I'm still getting the hang of the trains partly, and partly because I'm exploring the limits of what the system will let me get away with, kind of thing, very publicly. Right, so I'll just come off the power there. Could probably leave it a bit later to brake, to be honest. I'm being overly cautious with it. And we'll just coast on in. So it's that signal right there at the end of the platform is the one that's buggered us both up a few times. It shows clear, but then trips your PZB for not acknowledging the active 1000 Hertz, which should only be active if it's flashing. I'm way past my marks here as well. Let's not worry too much about it. It can be flashing only 85 and have a 45 restriction if you are within 200 meters of a 500 Hertz magnet, or if you enter the 500 Hertz magnet coverage while already under restricted monitoring. It's complicated. Basically, if it's flashing steady 85 and this one is blank or yellow, then you can do 40. If it's red, you can do 25. If that one's... Yeah, if that's flashing between the two numbers, sorry. If that one's yellow or blank, it's 40. If it's red, it's 20. It's 45 and 25, but give yourself that wee bit in your pocket. If it's blinking a steady 85, it will only expect you to do 25 when you're really sort of quite deep past the 500 Hertz magnet. What I would advise you to do actually is to find, there's a couple of scenarios on main Spessart and Ruhr Sig that have combinations of green into yellow, green into yellow into red, and if you find one of them, what to do is make a game save file just before you get to the yard, and then just try setting PZB off every single way you can. I did that, and it really helped me out, just deliberately finding all the different ways of setting it off. Doesn't mean that I don't still get it wrong quite often, but it helps you to understand a bit more how it's going to behave at certain signals. Right, so that signal didn't punish me on the way out. I'm now well clear of where I would have got busted, so it's only if it seems to be affecting the talent too. Oh, we're about a mile out from Wolfen, a kilometre out from Wolfen. Kind of sharpish on the brakes there again. What are we doing for time? So we're not Barry, but not horribly late either. Stop! Okay, so that wasn't perfect, but it wasn't my worst either. Oh, I forgot to change the pantographs as well when I swapped over. I should have the rear one up. If Nick was here, he'd be giving me a row. always forget to do that. And one time I did try to do it, I killed the power to the train and couldn't figure out how to get it back on again, so I'll maybe leave that one and play about with it off stream a bit more before I find myself stranded. So it's gone awfully quiet again now that cooling fan's gone off. I think we're going to just be closing the doors immediately because I'm pretty sure I'm behind time. Set the brake handle. The throttle's already closed. Lock the doors. Wait for the safeties to close and off we go. So here's another booby trap on the line. This is the one, the approach to Jesnitz. I think that's how you pronounce that. We're going into a speed limit of 120 from a limit of 140. So this little thing here is going to show you where the speed limit changes. What the bastard thing isn't telling you is that immediately after this, there's another speed limit reduction that you need to acknowledge the PZB magnet for. And it's the little orange sign right hidden behind the new speed limit sign. Just watch on the right hand side up here. I'm going to get out of the throttle in a second. It's this signpost here, which is hit. You'll be looking for the 12 and you'll almost miss the 7. I was almost too late on the brakes there as well. Have I made it? Yeah. So you can just get away with that one if you miss it. There we go, we're down to 70 now. You can just get away with that one, but again, that's a line knowledge thing. If you know that's there and you're prepared for it, things will go much more smoothly for you. The first time I went through there, it was, yeah, I stopped about here somewhere. Swore a bit and arrived at Jesnitz about 2 minutes late. And there's the actual speed limit itself in effect. And it's only in effect for about another 500, 600 metres up the line once you leave the station. So I don't know whether there's a bridge or something that we've gone across that's maybe got structural, or there's engineering reasons for it, or maybe Jesnitz is just where all the NIMBYs live around here. Who knows? So rolled a bit further forward than I meant to, but meh. When would I be doing 120? You wanted to stop at that station? You wouldn't really, because you're going straight onto 120 stretch of track, and immediately as that starts, you're advised that you're going into a further reduction. So at no point will you actually be steadily doing 120. Railway speed limits are confusing things. They're not actually a target speed for the train. They're more of a sort of an engineering thing. They're basically the fastest speed that that trains can go along the rails without damaging them, essentially, is what a speed limit is. So you can have a speed limit that's absolutely unattainable, but it tells an engineer at a glance exactly what, quite a lot of information about that stretch of track, about the conditions of the ground it's built on, or the, you know, the things like that. When they're planning, when they're route planning and stuff, they can tell at a glance what, you know, well, if we change that, are we going to have to change this and things like that. So it's not always, I'm doing a shite job of explaining it, I really am. But it's not necessarily a target speed that anybody's ever going to actually do. It's and remember, a lot of the speed limits, not the ones that are the signposted like that, but the ones that you see the temporary limits being posted by signals, those are just temporary speed limits that can be in place for all sorts of reasons. And on another day you might pass through that stretch of line at line speed. So we're approaching the... I wonder if it's because of this, like, embankment or something, maybe. If there's maybe a bridge or something it goes over that's got some sort of limit on it. That's not uncommon. There's a lot of bridges all over Europe, you know, over a century old easily, so I don't think that you can sometimes never quite sure if the thing was blinking or not as you go past, and it's just the lighting effects flickering a little bit. So I think it's 120 from here on up. It might be a case as well that 120 limit was there before the 70 was, and the 70's been put in later on. And you might as well just leave it from 160 to 120 down to 70, because the drivers know the line anyway. And having that kind of step progression is, oh shit, I'm too busy talking. Oh dearie me. It's been a while since I've done that. Okay, we're going back the way. Fuck's sake. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm way too far away to open the. Oh, what the fuck did I do that for? Scott, you absolute tube. Turn out. Head out right. Oh, where's that signal? I might not be able to get back past that. Right, I'm gonna have to be really careful, but I think I can get past it. Or rather, as long as I don't go past it. Oh, it's been a while since I've done this, but listen, if the guy who made the damn game can do this on his stream, then I can get away with it as well. Right, I was going to do this the quick way. And back into the cab, right. Oh, dearie me. Fun times. Right, that should all be good. Don't think I should need to reset anything else as far as I can remember. I'm confusing thousands. Yellows always expect stop on both systems. A yellow and a green together is proceed with caution under HV signalling, and that's the flashing green on KS signalling. Both instances, a full yellow is expect stop. Right, I don't know how far behind time I am now, probably kind of miles. 5 minutes to do 11 kilometres. At 120, nah, not doable. Buggery. Oh, what the hell was that for? Oh, do you know what? That's because I was in reverse and shit, I think. Ye gads. Right, fairly easy to recover from that. You don't even need to put the brakes on full, just leave them where they are. Let this thing charge back up for a second. And once it returns to about the top of the gauge, you can just release the brakes, get underway again. It's not that they have the restricted limits, it's that they're often followed by a 500 Hz magnet. You shouldn't automatically go into restricted mode just because you passed an expect stop. You should be able to go past one of those, in theory, up to 80 kilometres an hour. But it depends how close the 500 Hz magnet is. Right, so I'm just going to release myself from monitoring there. I don't know what I did wrong. Right, let's see if we can recover from this disaster. Probably not. Oh no, bought the wrong game, dude. Shit, I've done that before actually. I bought the wrong version of more than one thing in the past. On the bright side though, man, you've got tons more content available to you than we do. And you've got steam trains to play with. So, you know, there's a bright side in there. Yeah, in theory a 500 Hz magnet should be at least 700 meters beyond the yellow, but that's not always the case. If you saw any white flashing or little white lights anywhere on the yellow, it's probably closer than you're expecting. Oh, this is the second last station as well, so I've got like no time at all to try and gain any ground that I've got. Which sucks a bit. Oh. Just trying to keep it as near to that limit as I can without going over it. Well, this suddenly feels like the longest piece of track ever now that I'm just running that bit late. That's annoying. Can't even. Oh, you mean like you're sort of stuck to the cab view or the boom camera kind of things? Yeah, it's. I don't know. I spent a lot of years with older versions of Train Simulator. I had a lot of fun with it. And to be fair, if I had a PC, that is probably still the one I would have just for the sheer depth of content. Or I would probably have it alongside this. So it should have been pulling into the station now. I'm still 3.5 kilometres away. still doing a better job than Southern Rail. Apparently, I don't know, I've never been on Southern Rail, I just know that everybody fucking hates Southern Rail. Hell, ScotRail are pretty crap as well, to be honest with you, these days. Scot fail as they're often known. In fact, I think somebody even set up a parody Facebook page called that. So still getting clear signals 2 kilometres out, that's fine by me. The track starts to go downhill a little bit here, so just easing out of the power slightly. Probably going to be about 3 minutes late. Maybe less actually. Let's see by the time I'm done with the Breakin. Oh, not open. Oh, right, 2.5 minutes behind. 500 magnets always be active. Depends. 500 hertz is active if the next main is at stop. It'll be 250 meters before you get to the main. And if it's active, if the main is at red, then the 500 will be turned on. You'll only get a 500 approaching a main signal, never a distant, usually. I did come across a weird one somewhere on main spec art once, but I'm bugging if I can remember where. Right, door. Right, so next stop's last stop. Let's see how badly we've done. Right. Nah, I was supposed to be arriving there now, fuck's sake. I think if I can do it in 3 minutes, I might still just get given it. But I highly doubt it. Oh, it's going a little bit too quickly there. I don't know that we actually get to take advantage of the 130 coming up with the way the signals might play out on the way in. Because the change takes place like literally 100 meters before we need to start braking, so. Still just a wee bit toiling to get to grips with the input lag on the control as well. So there's a flashing signal. It says 130 bizarrely, but because it's guarded by PZB, you have to come down below 80. It doesn't really make any sense to me why it says 130 up there. But the signal itself is clear, so I can run as fast as 80. I think this is just a case of a signal being used to slow you down. The TSR it's showing is for traffic going straight through and is not related to what the signal's actually doing. And so this one is expect stop, so I'm going to reduce to 60 in anticipation of a 500 hertz magnet. 65 or lower when you hit the 500 hertz magnet, and then 45 within 150 meters. I shall attempt to demonstrate broadly how this works on the way in here, because I'm certain we get one. So I'm just watching on the right hand side of the track for a magnet. I can't see the signal up ahead yet. It's probably red. And there's the 500 trackside coming up. So as I pass it, I'll go into 500 hertz monitoring, and I have to be at 45 very shortly after that. In fact, I'm going to have to brake before I reach the magnet. I think there's the magnet there. And I'm now safe. I could cruise along at 40 and not get punished for it. The next thing that will happen is the 2000 hertz magnet at the signal mast itself will stop you. You're being 1000 hertz because the signal is telling you to slow down, irrespective of the speed limit for that stretch of line coming up is still 130 kilometres an hour. You just need to slow down just now because there's an obstruction ahead. Traffic passing straight on through here, not stopping, will be cleared to go through at whatever speed we were doing, reducing to 130. Well, it's 130, isn't it? It's the start of the zone. So signals might not always make sense in the context of what the Z3S is telling you. Is it the ZS3? I think it's called. Might be telling you one thing, and the signal head's telling you another one. Signal always takes priority. Signal first, signpost second. So if the signal is completely clear or blinking green, you're clear. Then you go by what the signal speed tells you. Although if it's blinking, if it triggers PZB basically, that's telling you, right, get slowed down. There is probably a sense to it, and I'm still sort of trying to figure it all out as I go. But the number and the signal itself are not necessarily going to make sense, and that's all right. And it gave me on time for all those stops. Yes. Doesn't always make sense to me, to be honest with you. I'm still figuring it out, parts of it, and every now and then something happens that makes me go, what the bloody hell happened there? Right, so it doesn't let you drive, you can't do an end change and continue from these northbounds because it's carrying on off the end of the map, sadly. So it just tells you to get off. Right, have I exited the vehicle, or am I supposed to... Oh, do you know what? It's because I can't see where the... There'll be an objective marker that I can't see. It doesn't really matter, it'll take off in its own time anyway. Aye, so that's the end of that. That'll end up driving off the end of the map in a moment, because its ultimate destination is Magdeburg, which we can't sadly go to yet. Zoom in on the keyboard. on the cab dashboard. Oh, the cursor keys, the arrow keys will flick between the different fixed views. I know what you mean now, yeah. All that's doing is cycling through the pre-selects that are on the radial that I'm currently finding won't open. Well, of course, because I'm not actually aboard a train. Right. Yeah, it just cycles through the pre-selected positions. But I think all the controls for the base game and the German trains, certainly anything you need for PZB and what have you, is covered in the two manuals that I linked to in the chat earlier on. But if you go to the TSW page on Steam, all the manuals are there for all the given routes. As I say, there's a few variations from train to train, but it's all covered in there. So that was, yeah, I want to give up control of that service. That was a wee run up and down the line with a cab change halfway through. Hopefully that's answered a couple of questions I've noticed people having about brakes and things like that and why they're coming on mysteriously. I'll be doing more fairly soon on this route, no doubt, because I'm having a blast with it. But for now, I'm away to get some grub and then I'm off to my scratcher because I'm getting up early to watch racing cars in the morning. So have a great weekend, guys, and the rest of it, and I'll catch you all again soon.